Happiness is not a random gift granted by fate to the lucky ones. It does not arise from favorable circumstances, nor does it bloom naturally on sunny days. Happiness is a challenge, a decision, and above all, a discipline. Life, with its imperfect and chaotic nature, will always try to disturb your inner peace. It whispers, "Only when everything is perfect may you smile." But Stoicism reveals a simpler and more powerful truth. You don't need an easy life. You need a spirit strong enough to rise even after you fall. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Therefore, happiness is not something we wait for. It is something we practice every single day. What follows are 10 lessons to help you build a proactive mindset so you can boldly say, "I own this day, and I will make it meaningful." Happiness is a choice, not a reward. 1. Happiness is a choice, not a reward. In a world that often confuses pleasure with happiness, we are taught to wait for the right job, the right person, the perfect moment, as if joy is something that arrives once all the stars align. But the truth is far less romantic and far more powerful. Happiness is not something you find. It's something you choose, not once, but again and again, especially on the days when it feels hardest to do so. The Stoics never promised ease, nor did they expect life to be fair. They understood something that modern life often makes us forget, that the conditions of life will never be perfect, not for long, not for anyone. You will be tired, people will disappoint you, the world will press in on your peace from every direction. And yet in the middle of that storm, you still have a choice. Will you react with resentment, or will you respond with clarity and intention? The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. This is not just a quote to decorate a journal. It's a directive. Your thoughts, the silent narrative you build in your mind, shape the emotional world you live in. If your thoughts tell you that joy is only possible when everything is easy, you'll live in quiet despair. But if your thoughts remind you that joy is forged in resistance, then every difficulty becomes a form of strength training for the soul. You don't need the world to be soft in order to smile. You don't need to be praised to feel worthy. You need discipline. The discipline to pause, to breathe, to protect your peace like a fortress under siege. This is what Stoicism teaches us. Joy is not passive. It is not gifted. It is built from the inside out through daily habits, through morning silence, through gratitude. In chaos, you carve out a kind of happiness that no external storm can shake. And yes, life will test you. It will rob you of control, surprise you with loss, and burden you with responsibility. But it cannot take your response unless you surrender it. The world might strike first, but you always strike last with your mindset, with your presence, with your decision to remain calm when anger is easier. To choose meaning when bitterness is tempting. This is why happiness is not a reward. It is not something life owes you for being good. It is what you create by showing up consistently in a world that offers you every excuse to quit. The more you act from strength, not emotion, the more joy becomes who you are, not what you're chasing. And so each morning, ask yourself, not will today make me happy, but rather, how will I bring strength into this day? Because from strength comes peace, and from peace a deeper, truer kind of happiness. That's the Stoic way, and that's how joy becomes unshakable. 2. Start your day with clarity. Start your day with clarity. Starting your day the right way can shape the tone of everything that follows. A well-designed and intentional morning routine is not merely a productivity hack. It's a quiet, powerful therapy for the mind. Research shows that even small acts of morning intentionality, like silence, journaling, or stretching, can significantly improve focus, reduce stress, and elevate overall well-being. But clarity does not happen by accident. It must be claimed, carved out from the noise, protected like a sacred ritual. And perhaps nothing sabotages this sacred space faster than the screen in your hand. When the first thing you see in the morning is your phone, emails, headlines, social media, you're no longer starting your day. You're reacting to someone else's. Your mind becomes a battlefield before your feet even touch the ground. The Stoics understood this long before smartphones existed. They taught that how you govern your mind at the start of the day determines how you will face the world. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This is not a poetic sentiment. It's a directive. It's a challenge to reclaim your agency, to not stumble into the day half awake, but to rise with full presence and intention. The moment you wake, your first thought shapes the narrative of your day. Is it gratitude or anxiety? Purpose or distraction? Instead of letting the algorithm shape your mood, begin with stillness. 5 minutes. Just 5. Sit in silence. Breathe. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be today? What energy do I want to bring into the world? This isn't about perfection. It's about presence, about choosing clarity before chaos. You don't need a perfect life to have a clear morning. You need discipline. You need boundaries. You need the willingness to protect your first waking moments like a fortress, strong, simple, and undisturbed. In that quiet space, even brief, you train the mind to obey you, not the world. That's how peace is built. That's how strength is born. And here's the truth. The rest of your day doesn't just happen to you. You meet it, you shape it, you lead it, starting from the very first breath. But clarity alone is not enough. Without consistent action, even the clearest vision fades. This brings us to the next key principle of Stoic living, the one force that turns clarity into momentum and momentum into mastery: discipline. Because when clarity meets consistency, habits are born. And when the right habits are practiced daily, transformation becomes inevitable. Let's explore that next. 3. The power of discipline and habit. Habit. We often wait for motivation to strike like a lightning bolt, sudden and electrifying, hoping it will jolt us into action. But motivation is a fleeting visitor. It arrives on good days when the weather is kind and our minds are calm. It fades the moment life gets hard. And life, as we know, always gets hard. That's why happiness, true lasting peace of mind, can never be built on motivation alone. It must be built on something sturdier, something that does not depend on mood or momentum. That something is discipline, and discipline is practiced through habit. Stoic philosophy never promised that life would be easy. It never offered comfort without effort. What it offered was clarity, a way to live well despite discomfort. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You must build up your life action by action and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible." In this one line, he reveals the architecture of a peaceful life, not built by emotion, but by intention, not by waiting for the right mood, but by showing up again and again with purpose. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom, it is its foundation. When we create routines, we create mental structure, a kind of internal architecture that shields us from chaos. A 5-minute morning walk, a moment of silence before picking up the phone, drinking water instead of scrolling mindlessly. These seem like small acts, but repeated daily, they form the rhythm of a steady mind. The world may spin with unpredictability, but our inner world begins to hum with calm. Emotional stability is not found, it is trained, and that training is not glamorous. It's not posted on social media or praised in public. It's waking up early even when you're tired. It's saying no to comfort in favor of growth. It's brushing the mind clean each morning before the world has a chance to dirty it. That is where strength is, built in quiet repetition. A Stoic does not ask, "Do I feel like it today?" This shift from emotional dependence to deliberate action is what makes discipline powerful. Habits become our inner compass. They keep us on course even when storms come. In a world that glorifies constant stimulation, discipline becomes an act of rebellion. To choose simplicity, to choose silence, to choose effort over ease. That is Stoicism in action, not a denial of feeling, but a decision not to be ruled by it. And so the path to daily happiness is not paved with constant positivity. It is carved one small action at a time by the blade of consistent effort. When we stop chasing moods and start building systems, peace stops being a distant hope and becomes a present reality. Because in the end, we don't rise to the level of our dreams. We fall to the strength of our habits. And if our habits are strong, if our discipline is steady, then happiness is not a mood, it is a way of being. Control your focus and your mental diet. 4. Control your focus and your mental diet. In a world flooded with noise, distraction is no longer an easy ident. It's an environment. Every notification, every scroll, every headline is a bid for your attention. And what you focus on grows. This is not just a motivational quote. It is a psychological truth and a Stoic warning. If you consistently focus on what is wrong, what is missing, or what others have that you don't, then that is the lens through which your entire life will be filtered. But if you direct your gaze towards solutions, growth, and what remains within your control, then you will slowly but surely reclaim your peace. Your focus is your power, and like any power, it can be trained or squandered. The Stoics understood this long before modern science confirmed it. They knew that attention, not circumstances, determines peace of mind. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "Your mind will be like its habitual thoughts, for the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." He does not say the soul is colored by what happens around us, but by what we choose to think about. This is profound. It means you are not merely a passive receiver of life, but an active artist constantly painting your inner world by what you allow to enter your mind. This leads us to your mental diet. You become what you consume, not just in food, but in thought, in media, in conversation. If you feed your mind with outrage, gossip, envy, and comparison, how can you expect serenity to grow? But if you choose to consume wisdom, read meaningful texts, engage in reflective conversations, or even sit with your own thoughts in silence, you are feeding your spirit with strength. Just as an athlete watches what they eat, a Stoic watches what they think. You must filter the mental garbage. Not all information is worth your time. Not every opinion deserves a response. Not every trend needs your participation. In fact, most of them don't. Mental clutter is as real as physical clutter and far more dangerous because it builds silently. You wake up one day feeling anxious, overwhelmed, lost, not realizing you've allowed 1,000 voices into your mind and none of them were your own. Instead, choose quality. Protect your inner space like a fortress. Focus deliberately on what uplifts you, on what trains your resilience, on what reminds you of who you are and who you wish to become. Read slowly. Think deeply. Talk to people who challenge you with kindness and insight. Let silence teach you when the world becomes too loud. You don't have to control the world. You only need to control what you focus on and what you allow to feed your mind. That is where your strength is built. That is where peace begins. That is where happiness becomes a practice, not a prize. And remember, your attention is your vote. Cast it wisely every single day. 5. Gratitude as a survival tool. Gratitude as a survival tool. Gratitude is not a denial of pain. It is not turning your eyes away from the hardship, nor pretending that suffering doesn't exist. Instead, gratitude is how we stand firm in the storm. It is the anchor of the mind, a mental survival tool forged in the fires of discipline, not comfort. When the world feels cold and chaotic, gratitude does not whisper, "Everything is fine." It declares, "Even in this, I choose to see what remains." The Stoics knew this well. Epictetus, born a slave, lived with pain and adversity every day. Yet he wrote, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." Gratitude in this way becomes an act of rebellion against despair. It breaks the loop of negativity that modern life traps us in, the cycle of comparison, of endless wanting, of chasing validation through screens and strangers. It all loses its grain. When we learn to say simply, "Thank you." Not for the pain itself, but for the strength it awakens in us. Not for the absence of struggle, but for the clarity it brings to what really matters. Practicing gratitude isn't reserved for grand moments or perfect days. In fact, its power lies in the ordinary. Begin each morning with it. Not by checking your phone, but by checking in with yourself. Breathe deeply. Reflect on what remains. What are you still holding even after all you've lost? And before you sleep, let gratitude close your day like a soft curtain. In the silence, count not your failures, but your endurance. Not the missed opportunities, but the fact that you're still here, growing, fighting, showing up. These small rituals create a psychological shield that makes the soul resilient. Gratitude, when practiced with intention, becomes emotional armor. It doesn't make life easy, it makes you ready. And now, if you're still with me, thank you. Truly, you've walked with me through half of this journey, and that matters. Your presence here isn't passive. Your attention fuels this message, and your interaction truly helps push this content beyond the algorithm, beyond the noise, and into the hearts of those who need it. Together, we're creating ripples, a smile at a time. And hey, were you about to click away? Don't even think about it. That would be a serious mistake, because what's coming next is the turning point. Trust me, you'll want to stay. We've only just reached the best part. The next lesson is not just insightful, it's transformative. Because now we enter the heart of Stoic power. Personal responsibility for peace. 6. Personal responsibility for peace. No one is responsible for your peace but you. Not your partner, not your friends, not your boss, nor the unpredictable world outside. This truth may feel heavy, but it is also liberating, because the moment you stop outsourcing your peace is the moment you begin to reclaim your power. In a world that constantly demands your attention, your energy, your emotional labor, protecting your inner space is not selfish. It is necessary. You are the gatekeeper of your own mind. And like any gatekeeper, you must learn when to open the door and when to firmly close it. Peace isn't the absence of noise, it's the strength to stay grounded while the world roars around you. Too often, we wait for the world to calm down before we allow ourselves to feel calm. We wait for the weekend, a vacation, a better job, a more understanding partner. But peace that depends on external permission will vanish the moment life tests you, and life always will. The Stoics knew this well. Taking personal responsibility for peace means understanding that boundaries are not walls, they are definitions. Saying no does not make you cold or distant, it makes you clear. When you define what is allowed into your mental space, you begin to shape the quality of your life from the inside out. Each time you allow someone's chaos to invade your clarity, you pay a price in energy, in focus, in emotional stability. But each time you pause, reflect, and choose what enters your awareness, you move one step closer to unshakable peace. It's not easy. There will be pressure to please, guilt when you say no, fear that you'll be misunderstood. But inner peace isn't built on convenience. It's forged through discipline. You have to train yourself to stop chasing approval and start honoring alignment. To say, my peace matters more than your comfort. Not out of cruelty, but out of self-respect. This does not mean you become indifferent. It means you become intentional. You don't ignore the world's noise. You simply refuse to absorb it. You listen, but you do not internalize. You care, but you do not carry. That is a strength. That is self-mastery. And perhaps most importantly, you stop blaming others for your emotional storms. They may have lit the match, but you control the fuel. They may have shouted, but you choose whether to echo or silence the noise within. Peace is not passive. It is an active practice. It is waking up each day and choosing clarity over chaos, boundaries over burnout, and self-responsibility over victimhood. It is not something you find. It is something you protect over and over again, because in the end, no one will do it for you, and no one should. That's how strength is born. 7. Non-victim mindset. Non-victim mindset. Do you constantly feel like life is out of your control? Like the world has singled you out, and no matter what you do, things just keep going wrong? Maybe you catch yourself saying, "Why does this always happen to me?" Or thinking, "If only they hadn't done this, I'd be okay." If that sounds familiar, you might be trapped in something called the victim mindset. This way of thinking convinces you that power lives outside of you, inside other people's choices, inside the past, inside fate. And worst of all, it convinces you that healing, peace, or happiness must wait until the world apologizes, until justice is served, until the universe decides you've suffered enough. But here's a truth that Stoicism offers with brutal clarity. You will wait forever if you're waiting for fairness. A non-victim mindset doesn't pretend the pain didn't happen. It doesn't deny the betrayal, the loss, or the injustice. Instead, it draws a line in the sand and says, "This is where my suffering stops becoming a chain and starts becoming a tool. It means reclaiming authorship over the story of your life, not by rewriting the past, but by owning the power to shape what comes next. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it, that matters." This is not a dismissal of hardship, it's an invitation. An invitation to realize that while the world can wound you, only you decide whether the wound becomes a scar or a permanent open cut. Your reaction is the birthplace of your freedom. Because healing doesn't begin with an apology from the person who hurt you. It begins when you stop waiting for one. Power doesn't return when life gets fair. It returns when you decide to stop giving your peace away. In this way, Stoicism is not cold. It's courageous. It asks you not to suppress your pain, but to transform it into strength. The non-victim mindset doesn't need control over external events. It simply takes ownership of the one thing you can always control: your response. And that response is powerful. It says, "I will not let what happened yesterday define who I am today." It says, even if life pushed me down, I still get to choose how I rise. Letting go of the victim mindset is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice, a habit, a conscious shift from asking why me to what now, from waiting for peace to choosing to build it yourself. Some days you'll falter, but each time you refuse to blame, you train the muscle of resilience. Each time you choose action over self-pity, you rewire your mind for strength. So ask yourself not just once, but every morning, who holds the pen today, me or the past? And choose again and again to be the author, not the aftermath. Because happiness doesn't belong to the lucky. It belongs to those who decide to rise. You think strength is built when life is easy? Think again. In the next part, we'll explore the surprising power of hard days and why they may be the greatest gift life offers if you know how to see them. Get ready. Embrace and appreciate the hard days. 8. Embrace and appreciate the hard days. In today's world of relentless activity, deadlines and digital distractions, learning how to enjoy each passing moment has never been more essential. We often forget the now. Our thoughts drift either toward the next item on our checklist or spiral into the weight of yesterday's regrets. And in doing so, we disconnect from the only place life truly exists, the present. But living in the present is not just a comforting mantra. It is a discipline, a conscious practice that rewires the mind, reduces stress, and strengthens the soul. When we slow down and truly feel the moment, even the difficult ones, we rediscover peace, purpose, and connection. Hard days, contrary to what we are taught to avoid, are not the enemy. They are not glitches in an otherwise perfect life. They are the training ground, the gymnasium of the soul. It is in these exact moments of fatigue, frustration, or quiet despair that our character is being carved. Like iron in fire, your spirit is shaped when pressure is high and comfort is absent. When you feel least motivated and yet still take the next step, that is when resilience is born. Seneca once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." This is not a metaphor. It is a law of nature. Just as a muscle must tear to grow stronger, so must your mind endure strain to develop strength. We misunderstand life when we wish for ease. You don't need an easier life. You need the mental fortitude to rise in spite of difficulty. That's the Stoic way. Not to run from suffering, but to look it in the eye and say, "You are my teacher." There is something noble in enduring with grace, not with fake smiles or forced positivity, but with grounded presence, the kind that acknowledges pain accepts it, and keeps moving. True strength is quiet. It doesn't scream. It doesn't need validation. It simply shows up again and again, especially on days when quitting would be easier. When we embrace the hard days, we stop wasting energy, resisting what already is. We shift from asking why me to declaring, let's see what I'm made of. The world outside might remain chaotic, but the fortress within becomes more unshakable with each challenge faced. Gratitude for the struggle is not madness. It is mastery. It is the understanding that pain too serves a purpose. So the next time life feels heavy, don't curse the weight, carry it with intention. And know this, the version of you who survives this day will be wiser, stronger, and more prepared for the next. That is how strength is born. Now, I want to hear from you. What's a hard day you faced, and what did it teach you about yourself? Share it in the comments. Someone out there might need your story right now. 9. Simplify to find joy. Simplify to find joy. We often believe that joy comes from achievements, more attention, more possessions. But the Stoics understood something far more profound. That joy is not hidden behind layers of complexity, but revealed when we remove them. Life in its natural form is not as chaotic as we think. It becomes chaotic when we allow too much in too many distractions, too many voices, too many obligations we never questioned. Every notification, every unnecessary task, every cluttered thought pulls you away from the stillness within. You begin your day reaching for your phone, and within seconds your mind is scattered across 1,000 worlds that are not your own. You scroll, you compare, you chase, and in that chase, joy slips further away. The Stoics taught us to simplify, not out of laziness or detachment, but out of clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you seek tranquility, do less." But he didn't mean do nothing. He meant strip away the non-essential. Do only what matters, and do it with full presence, because peace is not found in the absence of noise, but in the strength to remain still amid it. Simplicity is not minimalism for aesthetic's sake. It's the ruthless decision to protect your attention, like a fortress. It is asking every day, does this serve my growth? If not, let it go. A cluttered mind cannot feel joy. It is too busy managing the weight of what it never needed in the first place. The modern world sells you the illusion that fulfillment lies in accumulation. But Stoicism offers the opposite, joy through subtraction. When you remove what distracts you, you see what truly matters. A quiet morning, a task done with care, a single moment of presence with someone you love. These are small, but they are sacred. And the beautiful paradox, the simpler your life becomes, the more space joy has to rise. You no longer need to chase happiness. It starts to find you in the spaces you used to fill with noise. Simplifying is not giving up. It is showing up fully for what matters. It is choosing peace over chaos, depth over distraction, strength over stimulation. So ask yourself, what am I carrying that I don't need? What can I put down today so that I may walk lighter? Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop running. Just breathe. Just be. And in that stillness, you'll discover that joy was never out there. It was always waiting beneath the clutter. And if you've come this far, there's one more truth we must face. Perhaps the most important one of all. You've simplified. You've faced discomfort. You've started protecting your peace. But how do you sustain it? How do you train your mind to return to strength every single day, no matter what happens? That's what we'll explore next. And it might just change how you live the rest of your life. Happiness is a daily practice. 10. Happiness is a daily practice. Happiness is not a grand achievement waiting at the finish line. It's not a prize for those who are lucky, or for those who have ticked every box on society's list of success. True happiness, the kind that brings peace, strength, and quiet joy, is not something you stumble into. It is something you practice not once, but every single day. It's tempting to believe that happiness is a result, a job promotion, a dream home, a perfect relationship. But that illusion is the root of so much restlessness. Because even when those moments arrive, the feeling is fleeting and the void returns. The Stoics knew this long before the age of social media and comparison. They understood that real happiness comes not from outcomes, but from alignment between who you are, what you value, and how you live moment to moment. You don't need extraordinary luck. You don't need a new life. What you need is intention, small, repeated acts of clarity and courage. Every morning you are given a blank page. The world may be loud, messy, unfair, but within you remains the freedom to choose your first word. Will it be worry, or will it be willpower? Will it be complaints or quiet gratitude for simply having another chance to try again? Start the day with a purpose, even a small one. A sentence in your journal, a moment of stillness before the noise begins, a breath that says, I'm here, I'm alive. Let's live today like it matters. Throughout the day, storms will come, emotions will surge, people will disappoint you. But remember, you are not what happens to you. You are how you respond. That response is your practice. That pause, that perspective, that refusal to react in anger or despair, that is your training ground. And at night, do not let the day end in autopilot. Reflect not as a critic, but as a student. Ask yourself, did I act according to my values? Was I disciplined, kind, focused, not perfect, but present? Gratitude is not a performance, it is a shield. And in this quiet reflection, your mind becomes your ally, not your judge. So no, happiness is not a lucky break. It's not a weekend retreat or an Instagram quote. It is forged in the fire of routine. It is strengthened in discomfort. It is nurtured in silence. It is protected by boundaries. And it is awakened again and again by your willingness to show up, especially on the days you don't feel like it. Act first, feel later. Let discipline be your compass. Let gratitude be your anchor. Let reflection be your teacher, because happiness was never something to find. It was always something to build every day. If this video has helped you see happiness through a different lens, conclusion, it has given you even one reason to reclaim your peace, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it with those who might need it most. Today we've learned that happiness isn't a gift from fortune, but a discipline. It's not waiting for the world to be perfect, but choosing joy even in hardship. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more quiet, strong souls who decide to stand, smile, and keep going. Are you ready to be one of them? Tell me in the comments what choosing happiness looks like for you today. And if this message resonates, like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more Stoic wisdom. Together, let's keep this message alive. Your choice today could be someone's reason to rise tomorrow.